Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Holy shit.
That millions of illegal votes were cast in the 2016 election. It is empirically a stunning allegation for which the White House is providing no evidence. And there is a reason they are providing no evidence. There is no evidence.
Oh, no.
It is not true.
Oh, no.
Moments ago, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer acknowledged that the president believes 3 to 5 million votes were illegally cast in November. It was interesting what Mr. Spicer did not say. He did not say that he shared the belief, even after he was asked. Now, why would that be? Perhaps because there's zero evidence of widespread voter fraud in the 2016 election. Now, has there ever been voter fraud? Any instances? Yes. Massive voter fraud? 3 to 5 million votes cast illegally in 2016? No, it's simply not true. In fact, if there were even a fraction of the voter fraud that President Trump is alleging, he would be derelict not to order a major investigation. It would likely require a vast conspiracy involving public officials all over the country and would likely have had far-reaching impact in other contests, tainting races down the ballot, not just the presidential race. If President Trump's beliefs are true, Republican leaders in Congress should be holding hearings and trumpeting this injustice every single day. His Justice Department, his Department of Homeland Security, all of them would need to crack down immediately. Unless, of course, it's not even remotely true, which is, of course, the case.
All right, so here's the question for the day. What if we have an insane president? What do we do? What do we do? What if we have a madman in charge of the nuclear arsenal? What if we have a madman in charge of the purse strings? What if we have a madman in charge of every regulation? What if we have a complete and utter insane, a person who is unable to serve? What if that is the case? I mean, this press conference today was just... It was a mind blower. Okay, now before the press conference, the Sean Spicer press conference happened today, I was following the Tom Price hearing. Tom Price, of course, the nominee for Health and Human Services, and he is absolutely lying to the Senate. The Senate is hip to this fact, but of course, Orrin Hatch wants, to be a good soldier to the insane president, and so, Orrin Hatch is saying, no, these are all okay, and just because he traded. I have so much to play from that hearing. But before we get to that hearing, they had this press conference. They started at about, 3 o'clock, I guess. And I'm sitting here and, I got the TV on and I see the press conference and the questions are, there was a newspaper article this morning saying that, Trump had the House and Senate minority leader and the House and Senate majority leader up to the White House, some, get to know you. Hello, how are you? I'm the new president, sort of a thing. And when they left, we don't know who. We just know that 3 people told reporters who were in that meeting that for the first 10 minutes of the meeting, Trump went on and on about his magnificent, glorious election. That same thing that you've heard him do in front of CIA, in front of their memorial wall, the same thing you heard him do at the donor dinner, the same thing you heard him do at the inaugural, the same thing that you heard him do, every place that he's, been invited or has taken a microphone and started broadcasting. All he does is talk about this magnificent victory. And, the magnificent victory was in November. It's now almost February. Time to, start. So anyway, there was an article today about what chaos there is in the White House and how bizarre a White House it is. And that in that White House, where he had the majority and the minority leaders from both the House and Senate, they walked out, and Nancy Pelosi said, they asked her, what was discussed. She said, I don't even want to go there. So we know it's not her. She just, I don't even want to go there. So, but we know that 3 people that were in that meeting said all he does is talk about this landslide of a victory. And then they said, he said that he would have won the popular vote if 3 to 5 million illegally cast ballots hadn't been cast. That's his story, and he believes that millions voted illegally, and he's sticking to it, and that is just patently insane. And yet today, when they had the press conference, of course, the reporters had all read what we read this morning, and so they asked a question of Sean Spicer going, does the president really believe that 3 to 5 million people voted illegally? And if that's the case, when is the investigation going to begin into massive voter fraud in the United States that could have affected everyone's election, from local to dog catcher to the judicial whatever you had on your ballot, right? It would have affected it if 3 to 5 million people showed up to vote for Congress and Senate and president and all those down ballot issues, right?
3 to 5 million people voted illegally. That is a scandal of astronomical proportions. Doesn't he want to restore Americans' faith in their ballot system? Wouldn't he want an investigation of this?
Well, but Mara, as I've noted several times now, he's believed this for a long time, and I think he won fairly overwhelmingly. So he's not. And look, I'm
asking you, why not investigate something
we will.
The biggest scandal in American electoral history? 3 to 5 million people voting illegally.
I think we'll see where we go from here, but right now the focus that the president has is on putting Americans back to work. It was a comment that he made on a long-standing belief in the back. Yeah.
It's something he's believed for a long time. That is a scandal of astronomical proportion. But it's something he believes for a long time. I'll tell you this. There is no evidence at all, none whatsoever. There is, no secretaries of state have reported voter fraud in their states. Just every place that you would go to hear reports of voter fraud have never ever said there was 3 to 5 million people voting illegally. All we know is there was one guy who tried to vote twice in Texas for Donald Trump, and he was arrested. That's the only voter fraud that we saw. But, if you have a president that says that 5 million illegals voted against you, and he knows how the ballots were cast, that's the crazy part. It's all crazy, but that 3 to 5 million ballots were cast against him. If you have a leader that believes that, then I'm telling you by the next election, it will be illegal to vote. It will be illegal to vote against him. That's just, this was all said at a reception that he had for the leaders of Congress, and where he spends 10 minutes, rehashing his election victory. I'm pretty sure Hitler stopped talking about beating France a few weeks after it happened. And Hitler did beat France legitimately. So, why won't any Democrats stand up, or anybody, any Republicans, any of his cabinet nominees, Paul Ryan, for God's sake? Where is, Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or any of these people? Why won't they stand up and say, excuse me, sir, but you're a delusional psychopath? Now, we do have the 25th Amendment. We do have that says that if anybody, as Congress may by law provide, anybody at all, could be, the cabinet, could be, the vice president and a majority of the principal officers in his cabinet, could be, any group that Congress, decides, transmits to the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House in a written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, we would have President Mike Pence. Somebody needs to do this. This is insane. This is absolutely delusional. I don't know why nobody will tell him to knock it off. It's like, when you're on the bus and there's a crazy person on the bus, and so you avoid any interaction with the crazy person on the bus, and you hope that they get off at the next stop. Well, in this case, the crazy person is driving the bus. You can't ignore the crazy person. This is unbelievable. I mean, pretty soon we're going to all have to sing songs about him, like the children's choir in North Korea sings to Kim Jong-un. What the hell kind of a presidency is this? It's so bizarre. It's so off the rails. It's so amazingly bizarre. Another story in USA Today. This is incredible. Trump thinks the Women's March was not about him. Finally, something is all about him, and he says it's the one thing that wasn't about him. He said, through Sean Spicer, he said Trump thinks a lot of the Women's March protesters were not protesting him Oh, apparently they were protesting, I don't know, somebody else who, grabbed the P word and wants to undo Planned Parenthood in the United States and make maternity care a pre-existing condition again. I guess that's who they were maybe they were protesting Theresa May or Angela Merkel. Maybe they were still protesting Hillary. I don't know. But they weren't protesting him. It's amazing. It's amazing. He thinks he's the center of everything until he's actually the center of something. And then he denies that this is about him. The march was born the day after his election. It started out as a tweet from a woman in Hawaii, and it just took monumental life all its own. It was planned for the day after his inauguration. It's the only positive thing he's probably ever inspired. Why won't he take credit for it? Because he can't handle the truth. And the truth is this man's enemy, and it's bizarre. It's just bizarre. The media is literally breathless about this today.
CNN senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny joins me now. Jeff, is there really no one in the White House, no Republican congressional leader, willing to tell President Trump not only that he's wrong, but that he's trash-talking and undermining the very democracy he now leads?
It seems like there's not, Jake, at least here in the White House. That's why White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer was simply repeating those claims that President Trump has made. The one difference, of course, though, between after the election and now, he is the president, and his voice and beliefs carry the full weight of the White House.
All right, I think a clip from the press briefing here.
The White House is standing by President Donald Trump's unsubstantiated claim
Omarosa, you're sitting right there. Will you please tell him he's crazy? Tell him he's kooky.
that millions of people voted illegally in the November election.
The president does believe that. He has stated that before. I think he stated his concerns of voter fraud and people voting illegally during the campaign. And he continues to maintain that belief based on studies and evidence that people have presented to him.
Press Secretary Sean Spicer doubling down on the president's claim,
oh my God,
but repeatedly unable to point to evidence that backs up the charge that has been debunked by Republicans and Democrats alike.
You said the president believes that there was voter fraud. I wonder if you believe that. You were at the Republican National Committee at the time, and Chief of Staff Reince Priebus was the chairman of the RNC at the time. Do you believe there was widespread voter fraud?
My job is not, look,
how can he be comfortable with his win if he believes
he's very
there
comfortable
was
with his
3
win.
million votes? Maybe he didn't win.
No, he's very comfortable with his win. It's an electoral-based system. He got 306 electoral votes. 33 of 50 states voted for him. I think, look, Jeff, I've asked and answered this question twice. He believes what he believes based on the information he's provided. Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean for democracy, though, Sean? What does that
Thanks,
mean?
Jeff.
If he
Ma'am.
does believe that, what does that mean for democracy?
It means
Sean?
that I've answered your question.
The allegations of voter fraud, which Trump has repeatedly made before taking office, surfaced again after the president repeated that claim Monday night while meeting with congressional leaders at the White House.
No, I think he won very, very handily. He's very comfortable with his win.
But he doesn't sound like it, repeating charges that 3 to 5 million people voted illegally, a claim as unsubstantiated as when he first made it after the election. But now it carries the weight of the presidency, which troubles leaders of both parties. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said if Trump believes it, he should disclose his proof and ask for an investigation, telling CNN's Manu Raju such allegations erode the president's credibility.
So I would urge the president to knock this off. This is the greatest democracy on earth. You're the leader of the free world, and people are going to start doubting you as a person if you keep making accusations against our electoral system without justification.
From the White House podium, Spicer left open the door to launching an investigation, but repeatedly brushed aside questions from reporters.
There is no investigation. I said it was possible. Anything is possible. It was a hypothetical question. My point to you is that to ask us on day 2, he made a comment last night on something that he has believed and said for a long, long time.
Oh my God.
And the question that was asked to me is whether or not, so it's been asked and answered.
Even as he gets to work laying out his agenda, Trump is still on a quest to prove his legitimacy. The exchange came on the 4th full day of Trump's presidency, overshadowing his executive actions to revive the Keystone Pipeline and clear the way for the Dakota Access Pipeline.
We really do have an insane man in the White House. I have to tell you. And yes, he issued more executive orders today. I thought that maybe we would talk about those. He obviously, approved the Keystone Pipeline pending negotiations with TransCanada that he will conduct. This is very, very creepy. He obviously, was asked questions at this press conference about his financial interests in the Dakota Access Pipeline TransEnergy Partners. Sean Spicer insisted that he had sold those stocks, except the reporter had evidence that he didn't sell all the stocks. And he said, yeah, well, you know what? He said he did. And so she said, well, why doesn't he just release his tax return so we can see? Oh, that's never going to happen. Nothing that comes out of Sean Spicer is true. Nothing that comes out of this White House is true. Kellyanne Conway can't tell the truth. She's consistently debunked. She's been debunked by the intelligence community. She was debunked the other day about using alternate facts. Everything she says is easily debunked and widely debunked very quickly. The president is lying. Sean Spicer is lying on behalf of the president. And I mean, the thought of this man physically in the White House, it's like Rush Limbaugh in the Vatican. It's offensive. I mean, I don't understand how people of good conscience, no matter what party they belong to, honestly, I don't know how people who are around him, I don't know how people like, I mean, all these people around him, I don't know how they can refuse to say there is something wrong with him. We've worked with him now for, since November on the transition. Quite frankly, he's put together, a very strange cabinet. Nobody, discussed anything with him that pertains to their job, and that's why they're testifying the way they are. They have no guidance from him. This man is just, he can't get past the election and the fact that he lost the he's obsessing. And it's just something's wrong with him, and we have to take steps. We must take steps. Congress, we're going to send you a letter. You have to assemble within 48 hours for the purpose of, saying that the president is unable to discharge the duties of his office. It's shocking. I just can't even. I can't. There are no words. There are just no words. Rick in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy, I tell you, with DJT, who the hell needs LSD?
Oh my God!
I mean, this is like a bad national trip. He's like going to take everybody with him on this trip.
Oh my God! This is like Lewis Carroll is running the presidency. I mean, this is Alice in Wonderland stuff. This is Jabberwocky. This is just total babble. This is insane. None of this makes sense.
I mean, I sure hope that there's a psychiatrist at the White House who can prescribe all his staff antipsychotics because they're going to need it.
The whole country is going to need it if this continues. One more minute, okay? This is bizarre. This is really, really strange. I've never seen this before. I will say this: I used to think a long time ago that President Reagan had Alzheimer's, a lot longer than the American people were led to believe. But that and that H.W. was president for a lot longer than the American people were led to believe. But this is a brand new presidency with a manifestly insane man at the helm who is signing executive orders. He doesn't understand what he's doing. He's the most conflicted president. The lowest approval rate. He's an old man, and he has absolutely no clue what he's doing except to obsess about the Women's March not being about him, and to say what a magnificent glory. What did he name the day he was inaugurated? He signed an executive order calling it a glorious day of patriotism.
Oh, that's what he called it. Wow. I mean, I think we've got a real Caligula in the White House. We've got to get the cabinet confirmed just so that they can invoke the 25th Amendment and have Congress vote on it.
Well, it doesn't have to be the cabinet. Any body that Congress may by law provide doesn't have to be the cabinet. Congress can actually do this. Congress can get together. They can provide a body that will examine him, that will look at the forcefulness of the claim that this man is unfit, and then that body can write a letter and say, convene within 48 hours. He's got to go.
Yeah, we need a national intervention against this guy.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to be, curtains for the USA,
The video may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised, yes.
All right, Randy, great show.
I love you enough to tell you. I love you, but I will not love you to death. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.